What are you doing?
Oh, hi. I didn't notice you sitting there. You know, I was just reading my favorite book of all time, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. You know, it just occurred to me. I've never read the first book in this series, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. But I don't have time to read books anymore. I have to play video games.
Tom Sawyer on NES. Just my luck. There was actually a game based on the Tom Sawyer novel. That's rather progressive considering video games in 1989 were primarily directed towards children, and Tom Sawyer is a book written and set during times with rather controversial lifestyles. However, when you think about it, Mark Twain's novels, especially Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, are appealing to people of all ages, with younger kids enjoying the adventure itself, and older audiences appreciating the underlying themes of the stories. So with that in mind, let's check it out. Why does this game look so bad? I mean, the title screen was nothing special, but at least it captured the spirit of Tom Sawyer. The do-it-yourself lumber logo actually looked kinda nice. The blue sky and white clouds as backgrounds and trimmings were a little blown out, but nothing too drastic. So, what happened here? Why is the sky purple? Why is Tom almost the same color as the background? Why are birds attacking me? Who's throwing barrels? Who's throwing barrels? Seriously, we're 10 seconds into the game and I have no idea what's going on. The gist of what I get is that you play as Tom, who immediately faints in class because one of his classmates is a giant sperm. Oh, she must be gifted and talented, wise beyond her years. Because she's a sperm. In his fever dream, Tom explores the Mississippi line, which has been taken over by pirates. Why pirates would want to take over a ship with nothing and no one aboard, especially so far inland, is beyond me. Not to mention there are giant rats in the bulkhead!
Oh! I'm allergic! God bless you.
I don't believe it, Joss Whedon.
Stage 1 isn't all that hard. After you beat the giant rat mini-boss, you go down one more level where you are set upon by a brigade of baby octopi. If you just stay on the ladder, they can't get you, so wait patiently and then move on. The actual boss is a giant octopus. Hit him in the eyes a few times and then you're on to level 2. And now you're on a raft in the Mississippi, shooting pink fish and logs while jumping over land bridges? This is awesome! No, seriously, the entire game should have just been this. Yeah, the controls are a little stiff, and the area of play is a bit constrained, but if the entire game was a vertical 2D shoot-'em-up, it would have been so much better. I mean, it probably wouldn't be anything like the books, but Batman on NES wasn't anything like the movie or the comics, and that game is kick-ass. Why does this part of Tom Sawyer even exist? There are a few more minor complaints. You have to keep tapping the B button to shoot, you can't just hold the button down. Yeah, it's one of those games. So just grab yourself an NES Advantage or an NES Turbo controller and you're all set. Also, none of the bosses are particularly difficult. In the gator fight at the end of Stage 2, you can actually get pushed a bit by the whirlpools, but nothing seems to openly hurt you except for running into the alligator's mouth. But if you manage to die 3 times, it's game over, which means Tom wakes up and has to deal with the emotional trauma of having a giant gamete for a fellow student. Luckily, there are infinite continues, so you can send Tom right back to sleep and try again. Lastly, what is that awful noise that they call music? In all sincerity, I began playing this game last year, and the music is the reason I couldn't continue on until now. It's the kind of horrendous sound that can only be heard in a malaise-induced unconsciousness. In any case, the game kinda just continues on like we've seen for the next few levels. So while Tom Sawyer isn't the worst game in the world, the music is reason enough to consider passing on it.
I think this music is putting me into my own fever dream. Oh no.
Asai?
Who are you?
I'm like your spirit guardian dude. And, you're in some pretty big danger.
What? What's wrong? Tell me, I have to know!
There's one other Tom Sawyer game that exists. One that, never made it to America.
No. You can't mean...
Yeah. The very same that drove your father's brother's girlfriend's roommate mad. Only you can stop this, Asai.
You're right. It's time to end this.
Ow.
Square. The company behind such classics as Chrono Trigger and the Final Fantasy series did indeed create an RPG based on Tom Sawyer. Released in 1989 and hot off the heels of Final Fantasy II, this game is known simply as Square's Tom Sawyer. I guess they didn't want people to confuse it with Capcom's Super Tom Sawyer 2 Turbo Championship Edition. For the sake of our non-Japanese speaking viewers, I've included Nintendo Complete's subtitled playthrough of the game. That way you can actually understand what's going on, because this is an RPG. The game begins in 1855 Missouri. That goofy-looking kid is Tom Sawyer, the hero of the story. His friend Amy says that everyone is heading south because according to Jim, holy shit!
Oh, that is messed up. That's fucked up. That's FUBAR if I've ever seen it.
So this game, this children's game, heavily implements blackface visuals into its art design. You know, because kids aren't going to become hateful racists without a swift kick in the ass in the wrong direction. I think I'm starting to see why this game was never actually released outside of Japan. Seriously, Jim is so blackface his skin is blending in with the actual black backdrop of the text box. Anyway, overlooking the blackface graphics as much as possible, Jim says there's treasure down south, so they need to hurry and get to the boat. Some kid with a dirty possum on his head says that there's only 3 tickets, so Jim, Huckleberry, and Tom are in a tough spot. The world melts away from the game's burning hateful prejudice, and now you can begin playing. For an RPG, the game is actually quite linear. There's no open world to explore, but rather a side-scrolling series of paths similar to Friday the 13th on NES, which was also released in 1989. There's also no equipment. You don't have any more protective sets of clothes or any better weapons. You just are what you are, and that better be good enough.
Obviously, these complaints are minor, because the story is trying to follow the story of Tom Sawyer, and it would be rather weird if Square's Tom Sawyer all of a sudden became a mage, or a fighter, or a thief, like in Final Fantasy, because who wants to play a fun game, you know? Me? No, I don't want to play a fun game. I want to play Tom Racist!
One good thing I will say about the game is that I like the music. Nobuo Uematsu composed the score and did a great job of providing a quaint ambiance to the game's setting. Really, the setting overall is very well established. The town is actually whitewashed, just like described in the book, and the game has the main characters from the story as well. The main problem I'm having right now, though, is I have no idea where to go. That's a recurring theme in the game. You really have to know where to go, or else you'll just be running in circles. So I'm gonna try to condense this down as much as possible. Start off by adding Jim to your party, steal a tile from the kid in the house, grab the lunch from your aunt, get a blue card from some girl, get a letter from Laura, team up with Amy, take the letter to Hayes in the northern woods, and he'll tell you about the haunted mansion at South End. Go south into another forest, grab Huckleberry Finn, who's the rat-headed kid I mentioned earlier, and you'll end up at the town of River's End. There's a Sunday school here where you can trade your cards for other cards. 2 blue cards gets you 1 red card, 2 red cards gets you a yellow card, 3 yellow cards gets you a Bible. Meanwhile, 1 yellow card is a violin band. You got the blue card from the girl in the first town. The guy with whom you trade will give you another blue card. Jim has a 3rd blue card, so take Jim's blue card and trade 2 blue cards for a red card. Amy has another red card, so take hers and trade both red cards for a yellow card. you should leave Sunday school with a blue card and a yellow card. Fast forward a little bit and you'll see that Injun Jim is in East City, Alfred went to St. Petersburg, and Usu and Sosu are trying to kill Tom. Beat Usu and then you can get a pendant from Sosu. A little bit further you'll meet Becky. Send Amy home and then talk to Becky. If you give Becky the pendant, you'll get her license card and can now recruit her. At this point, the game gets a bit more complicated. Excluding Tom, you can now switch between 4 potential party members, but you have to find them in their original spots each and every time you send them away to recruit a new party member. That means more backtracking through a game that's already set up like a maze and has a horrendously inconsistent encounter rate. Also, the music that was so nice earlier in the game is starting to grate on my nerves because there have only been 3 or 4 songs in the entire game. Now, without going into all the convoluted details, this is the part where you trade a lot of items to get Tom a canoe, which you can now use to cross the river. Seriously, the item swapping in this game feels like it's only behind King's Quest and Leisure Suit Larry in terms of complexity. Cross the river in the canoe and you're in East City. Go to the Haunted Mansion, show the Bible to Bucklin the Butler, fight him, work your way through the catacombs, and now you're facing the most evil foe yet. Franklin.
Franklin! How did you escape from the pits of hell?
Wisconsin's not that far from here.
Franklin is seriously like a boss out of Final Fantasy. This guy is a mage, which is a wild shot out to left field. Up until now, we've been fighting normal tough dudes. After you beat him though, East City goes back to normal. Then talk to the butler, get back on the river, do more item exchanges, go into the cave, get to the treasure chest at the end, and you'll find that the last boss in the game is Injun Joe. Seriously, this game was already inevitably racist without the racist art style. When you beat Injun Joe, you'll finally get to collect the treasure chest all for yourself.
Some games really take it out of you. No matter if they last 2 hours or 2 months, these are the games that truly test your patience. And the people that manage to beat them, they're the ones we call champions. Well, champions or morons, but I'd like to think champions because I try to be a nice guy. Call me what you will, but if you manage to sift through the horribly repetitive, grating, racist, and downright tedious Tom Sawyer game by Squaresoft, you deserve a reward. I think Square understood that too. So let's see what they give you as restitution for beating their shitty game.
The bell from the clock tower? The same bell from the clock tower that has to be returned to the clock tower? So, Tom gets nothing? No one gets anything? This whole game was about nothing?
Why Squaresoft? Why?
Hey, thanks for watching our silly video. Special thanks to Matt Kihas for helping me out with this video. If you liked what you saw, please give us a like and share it with your friends. If you want to stay up to date on the latest and greatest AsaiNeroTran videos, please consider subscribing by clicking on the big ol' subscribe button on screen. If you want to see more, check out our other videos. I did another comedy review on Legend of the Mystical Ninja, which is a super rad Super Nintendo game. I also do some cool top 10s, if you like those. And if you're more into Let's Plays, check out my other channel, Tran Play. Thanks!